Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Sadlier School Live. I'm excited to be bringing back the wonderful Dr. Matthew Beyranevand. Hi, Matthew.
Hey Cam, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I am stuck at home, but we're hanging in there. We did a little art project this morning and tried to get a little bit messy and have some fun.
Well, from what I'm hearing from different parents is that they've kind of transitioned from the support, remedial, just have fun to now actually starting to have them do lessons. And that's a
Yes.
whole different ball game. So hopefully we can offer some support through these continued Facebook Live sessions for both parents and teachers about what types of things we can do and why it's important to focus on things during our enrichment learning from home.
Yes, and that's why I love the different topics you've been coming onto Facebook Live and speaking with us about. And today's topic is another wonderful one because we're going to be talking about why solve problems in multiple ways. And I know this is a topic that you have talked about for Sadlier School on some past webinars. And I'm going to drop a link to that webinar in the chat for anyone who wants immediate access to that replay. They can learn more about this topic at that link.
Excellent, thank you. So what I'm really going to try to focus on today is trying to help parents understand why teachers at all levels, but in particular at the elementary level, spend so much time and focus on trying to solve problems more than one way. And when you and I, Cam, when we went to school, that's not how we learned. It was, here's the approach, now practice it and do it over and over again, the same method. And that's not really how it's done today. And I want to do both a little bit of a lesson and activity with everyone today to help them understand and see why it's important. And so I start with a quote. I start with a quote from the Godfather of problem solving, George Poya, who said, "It's better to solve one problem 5 different ways than to solve 5 problems with that same approach." Cam, and when you and I went to school, what we would do is that same approach over and over again. But today we're solving the same problem and we're examining it many different ways. And here's what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this one particular problem here, a very basic 3rd grade math problem here, 12 times 19. And the activity that I would be doing with my children or with my students would be to begin by solving this problem as many different ways as they can. Because by doing this, it really builds conceptual understanding. Now, when I look at this problem of 12 times 19, I begin by looking at it the traditional way that you and I would do it, where we're doing the 9 times the 2, and then we're carrying the 1. And you know, it doesn't actually make a lot of sense what I'm doing here. I'm borrowing, I'm carrying, but this is what we call the traditional algorithm. And this is what we want our students to eventually get to, but not right away. And the example that I show here is also supported by the work of Sadlier in that they don't start with this traditional algorithm, they move to it. So what is it we should be trying to do before we get to this traditional algorithm as we explore solving the same problem multiple ways? Let's start with our basic understanding. And one of the best ways to teach multiplication for understanding is using this area model, where we take this 19 times 12 and we break it down into the 10s and the 1s. And so we have 19 is 10 plus 9, and 12 is 10 plus 2. And so we break it down and find the area of these 4 smaller rectangles, and then the sum of the parts will lead us to that same answer. No memorizing steps or formulas about how to do it. It's taking it down and understanding the numbers and then using basic multiplication, 10 by 10, 10 by 2, 9 by 10, 9 by 2, to be able to come up with the solution. Does that make sense to you, Cam?
Yes, this is perfect sense. And I love how simple it is for a kid to really break down and digest.
Yes, and this is what we're really teaching at the elementary level. And so what I want parents to do is to acknowledge understand it themselves so that they can support them with this idea of area model or using arrays, and not say, no, 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 let me just show you that traditional algorithm the way I learned that, because we're actually doing more harm than good when we're looking at that particular approach.
That's making me laugh, because have you seen the memes going around right now about the homeschooling parent, and like they're carrying the ones and they're doing it all wrong, and it cracks me up every time.
Exactly, exactly. And so one of the things that's so great about these master classes that you're running here with Sadlier is this opportunity for 10, 15 minutes a day to give parents, teachers, just a little something to think about, both for themselves and then how to better support their children at home during this time of virtual learning.
Yep.
Let's take a look at another example of how to do 19 by 12. And it's breaking apart the values. This is kind of where we look at what sort of math facts we already know and try to apply it to a problem. On the example here on the left, I'm going to break down that 19 to be 10 and 9 in a similar way to what we did with that area model. But then I said, well, I know my math facts up to 12, so I know that 10 times 12 is 120, and 9 times 12 is 108. So since I know those two, it's the same idea, because I have a total of 19 groups of 12, so I can break it down and then add it up and once again get 228. Likewise, this is actually my favorite method for doing it. Well, why do I have to deal with these difficult numbers of 19 and 12? Why can't I just use 20? And I know that 10 times 12 is 120. So doubling that, 20 times 12 is 240. But know that I didn't actually want 20 groups of 12. I wanted 19 groups of 12. So what do I have to do? I have to subtract 12 from my answer of 240 to get 228 as my answer. And what I think parents should be doing in this situation where we're doing these problems, such as this grade 4 multiplication, is that when the child gets the answer, however they did it, ask them, well, can you solve it another way? And just wait. Pause. Sometimes it's uncomfortable pausing, but I will tell you, based on the schooling that your children have had over the years, they have been exposed to this and they want to come up with an additional way. And by coming up with 2, 3, 4 ways, we are also having the ability to have them understand the math better, which, if you've listened to any of my master classes or previous talks on this live thing, that is such an important thing. And what I would like to do also in our couple minutes that we have left today is preview the topic that we're going to be doing tomorrow, and that is incorporating the history of math into our homeschooling, extended learning, virtual learning, and that is a very underutilized math resource. Let's take a look at another approach. This is the way the Egyptians would have solved this particular problem. They used a doubling method in solving the problem here, whereas they take one of the two values, in this case 12, and they keep doubling it. 12, 24, 48, 96, 192. So they're just doubling. And then they said, well, I need to find 19 groups of it. How can I get 19 groups? Well, 16 plus 2 plus 1 gives me 19. So therefore, I'm going to add up 192, 24, and 12. And believe it or not, it's going to come out to that same correct answer of 228. So the idea here is that we want to not only allow, but promote the idea of solving the same problems multiple ways, because it helps the understanding, it helps them better be prepared to do the mathematics, and in case they get stuck, they have a different approach. If you only have one tool in your toolkit, you will likely not be as successful if you have 2, 3, or 4 of those. And we're going to be going more into that example of the Egyptian mathematics tomorrow, when we kind of talk about all the amazing things in the history of math that we can use both to understand math and to have that little bit of interdisciplinary learning with the history and the social sciences and even the science itself.
I love this topic because it is such a vital skill for children to learn so that as they grow, they recognize that in life there are multiple ways for me to get to an outcome. And I don't need to just give up after this one way not working out, because just like in a lot of these math problems or ways to solve math problems where you're teaching them, there's not just one way to get a right answer. And I love that this makes it fun and engaging at the same time. So thank you for showing us this topic today and walking us through it.
And one of the most important things about why we study math is that it teaches you how to be a good problem solver. It teaches you about reasoning and perseverance. And this idea of what we just shared today models all of those things in a very engaging way, as you said. So it's something that I would really encourage parents to be able to work with their children as they're doing their math lessons with them from home.
Awesome. And I also wanted to mention that Dr. Matthew Beyranevand has written an article for Edutopia. It was from a few years ago, but we also dropped a link to that into the chat on this video. So if you want to check that out, you can as well.
Yep, we have that webinar that I did for Sadlier last year. That's a 60-minute webinar on this exact topic. And as well, we have that article that I wrote about that with additional links and information. So if it's something you want to learn more about or study a little bit, those are two great places to go.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Matthew. And we will see you back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific.
Thank you so much, Cam. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for a little history and math work.
Bye.